At my father's retirement luncheon, the music stopped. The moment my sister, Kendra, ripped the forearm crutch from my grip. She sneered. "Stop faking it. Aubrey, you were just leeching off Dad." Gravity took over. I crashed onto the hard patio tiles of the country club, the impact sending a shockwave through the titanium plates in my pelvis. As I lay there, gasping, my relatives didn't help. They laughed. Uncle Gary even raised his phone to record. But none of them knew that Dr. Eris Thorne, the surgeon who rebuilt my spine, was standing in the shadows. He stepped into the light, placed a heavy hand on Kendra's shoulder, and spoke 6 words that flipped the entire script. "Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community." The Oakwood Country Club smelled of roast beef and old money. It was supposed to be a celebration of my father, Richard, and his 40 years of service. Instead, it became my public execution, lying on the cold stone. I didn't try to get up immediately. I let the pain calibrate. It was a sharp, familiar tearing sensation near my hip, a reminder of the car accident that had shattered my body 3 years ago. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the performance happening above me. Kendra stood over me, holding my crutch like a trophy she had just won in battle. She looked immaculate in her silk dress, the perfect image of the golden child. While I was the broken spare part on the floor, she turned to the 50 guests, her voice projecting with theatrical outrage. "Look at her," she announced, pointing a manicured finger at my trembling legs. "She plays the victim so well, doesn't she? But I have seen the bank statements. Aubrey drains $45,000 a year from Mom and Dad's retirement fund for her quote-unquote treatments. She is not disabled. She is a parasite." The crowd murmured. I saw heads nodding. In their eyes, I wasn't a survivor, I was a liability. My Uncle Gary zoomed in with his camera, a smirk plastered on his face, eager to capture the family drama for his social media feed. But I wasn't looking at Kendra. And I wasn't looking at the camera. I was looking for the 2 people who were supposed to protect me. My mother, Susan, was sitting at the head table. She didn't stand up. She didn't scream at Kendra to stop. She was nervously smoothing the wrinkles in her linen napkin, her eyes darting around the room, terrified of a scene, terrified of what the neighbors would think. She was making herself small, hoping the storm would pass if she just ignored the lightning striking her daughter. Then, I looked at my father, Richard, the man of the hour. He was holding a glass of expensive red wine. He saw me on the floor. He saw the agony etched on my face. And then, he looked away. He looked at his slice of retirement cake. He took a sip of wine. In that split second, the transaction was complete. He didn't look at me because acknowledging my pain would mean acknowledging his failure to stop Kendra. He chose his comfort over my dignity. That silence screamed louder than Kendra ever could. It wasn't just passivity. It was a choice. It was a betrayal so quiet and so absolute that it hurt more than my shattered pelvis ever did. Kendra was still talking, fueled by the room's tacit approval. She refuses to work. She refuses to contribute. She just takes and takes. While I manage the accounts, while I try to secure a future for this family, I shifted my weight, testing my leg. It held good. I didn't cry. Tears were a currency this family didn't value. I simply cataloged the faces, the laughter, and the silence. I was building a file. If they wanted to talk about accounts and ledgers, I was about to audit the entire family. The humiliation was reaching its crescendo when a chair scraped loudly against the patio floor. It wasn't a polite sound. It was a sound of interruption. From the back of the room, near the bar, a figure emerged. He wasn't wearing a country club blazer. He was in a sharp, charcoal suit that cost more than Kendra's car. Dr. Eris Thorne walked into the circle of judgment with the kind of terrifying calm that only a neurosurgeon possesses. The laughter died instantly. He didn't look at the guests. He didn't look at my parents. He walked straight to me. He didn't pity me. He offered me a hand. his grip firm and professional. Steady. Aubrey, he said, his voice low. Weight on the left. Pivot. He helped me stand, his presence acting as a shield against the room's mockery. Once I was upright, he turned to Kendra. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. Give her the crutch, he said. It wasn't a request. Kendra blinked, caught off guard. Who are you? She scoffed. Though her grip on the crutch loosened, this is a private family matter. Aubrey is a fraud, and I am exposing her. Doctor. Thorne took the crutch from her hand and returned it to me. Then he faced the crowd. I am Dr. Eris Thorne, Chief of Neurosurgery at St. Tammany WW. Jude's. I personally spent 12 hours in an operating room rebuilding your sister's pelvis with 3 titanium plates and 16 screws. The fact that she is standing here today is a medical miracle, not a performance. If you want to see the x-rays, I have them on my phone. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. My aunt lowered her phone. My cousin Tessa, my only ally, stepped up beside me, crossing her arms. The narrative Kendra had built, the lazy, faking sister, evaporated in seconds. But Kendra wasn't done. She couldn't be done. Her entire identity was wrapped up in being the responsible one, the savior of the family finances. She pivoted, her face flushing red. Fine, she stammered, her voice shrill. Maybe she was hurt once, but that doesn't explain the money. She cost this family $45,000 a year in treatments. She is bleeding. Dad dry. We have the bank records. Doctor. Thorne frowned. It was a genuine look of confusion. He tilted his head, looking from Kendra to my father. $45,000, he repeated. That is interesting. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen a few times, the silence in the room stretching thin like a rubber band about to snap. Aubrey is part of my advanced recovery study, he said, his voice carrying clearly to the back tables. Because her injury was so complex and her recovery so remarkable, I have treated her pro bono for the last 3 years. I haven't charged your family a single dime. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. I looked at Kendra. Her face had gone from flush to a ghostly perfectly Leven Raelian Thurston and Leven wall. Sickly white. I looked at my father. He had stopped drinking his wine. If the surgeon didn't take the money, and the money was gone, then where did $45,000 a year go? The question hung in the air, invisible and lethal. I looked at my sister, and for the first time, I didn't see a bully. I saw a thief in a silk dress, and she knew she had just handed me the match to burn her kingdom down. The silence was absolute. Every eye in the country club turned to Kendra. The math was simple enough for even my parents to understand. If the doctor cost $0, and the insurance covered the therapy, the $45,000 leaving my father's account every year had no destination. Unless the destination was Kendra. I watched her panic. It was a subtle thing. A twitch of the eye. A shifting of the feet. She looked at Mom, desperate for a bailout. I was investing it for them, she stammered, her voice cracking. It is in crypto. The market is just down right now. It was pathetic. It was desperate. And suddenly, it all made sense. Psychologists call it projection. It is the mechanism where a person defends themselves against their own unconscious impulses by denying their existence in themselves while attributing them to others. The thief is always the first one to accuse you of stealing. The liar is the first to demand the truth. Kendra hadn't been attacking me for 3 years because she thought I was a leech. She attacked me because I was the perfect cover. Every dollar she stole, she blamed on my medical bills. My disability wasn't an annoyance to her. It was her ATM. She needed me to be the villain so she could remain the golden child while she picked our parents' pockets. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. But it didn't hurt. It clarified. It was like wiping a dirty window and finally seeing the rot in the garden. My father finally stood up. Now, everyone, calm down. he said, his voice shaking. He wasn't angry at the theft, he was terrified of the scene. We can discuss this at home. Kendra. Aubrey. Let's just sit down and eat. He wanted to smooth it over. He wanted to pretend his retirement fund wasn't hemorrhaging money, so he could finish his cake in peace. I looked at him. Then at Kendra, who was vibrating with fear. No, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. I am done discussing. I turned to Dr. Thorne and Tessa. Get me out of here. I didn't wait for permission. I adjusted my grip on my crutch and turned my back on them. I heard my mother calling my name. A weak, pleading sound. But I kept walking. I walked past the staring guests, past the buffet, and out into the parking lot. I left them in the wreckage of their own making. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I was evidence. And I was leaving the crime scene. I didn't go home to cry. I went home to fortify. The drive back to my apartment was silent. But my phone was vibrating so hard against the center console, it sounded like an angry hornet. I didn't look at it. I didn't answer it. When I finally walked through my front door, I treated the device like a piece of radioactive material. I placed it on the kitchen counter, made myself a cup of black coffee, and then, with steady hands, I initiated the digital purge. I blocked my mother. I blocked my father. I blocked Kendra. Then, I went down the list of cousins and aunts who had laughed, systematically cutting the digital cords. It wasn't an act of pettiness. It was a quarantine. I was sealing off the infection before it could spread any further. But toxic families don't just disappear because you hit a button. They escalate. Psychologists call it an extinction burst. When a manipulator realizes their old tactics aren't working, they don't reflect, they scream louder. Since they couldn't reach me directly, they launched a PR campaign. Tessa sent me the screenshots the next morning. Kendra had posted a 5-minute video on Facebook. She wasn't wearing her silk dress anymore. She was wearing an oversized sweatshirt. No makeup. Sitting on her living room floor with tears streaming down her face. It was a masterclass in manipulation. I am just heartbroken. She sobbed to her camera. My sister, she is going through a mental health crisis. She manipulated that doctor. She is trying to destroy Mom and Dad's retirement because she is jealous of the life I've built. Please. Everyone. Pray for Aubrey. She isn't well. I watched the video with clinical detachment. It was fascinating. Really. She had taken the truth that she was a thief and inverted it so completely that she was the victim of my instability. The comments section was filled with flying monkeys, relatives, and family friends, offering their support, calling me ungrateful and troubled. Then came the email from my mother. She had bypassed the block by using an old AOL account I hadn't thought to blacklist. The subject line read, "Family First." I opened it. Expecting an apology, I expected her to say, "We are sorry we didn't protect you. We are sorry Kendra stole from us." Instead, I got this, Aubrey. Please. You are ruining your father's reputation. People are talking. Kendra is hysterical. Whatever misunderstanding you have about the money, we can fix it. But you have to take down that doctor's statement. You are tearing this family apart over a few dollars. Is money really more important to you than us? I stared at the screen, feeling the last vestiges of guilt evaporate. A few dollars. It was $135,000 over 3 years. And she was asking me if money was more important than family. The irony was so sharp it could cut glass. She didn't care that her daughter was a thief. She cared that the neighbors knew about it. She wanted me to set myself on fire so they wouldn't have to smell the smoke. But the final escalation wasn't digital. It was physical. 2 days later, there was a heavy pounding on my door. I checked the peephole. It was Uncle Gary, the man who had recorded my fall. He looked red-faced and sweaty. I didn't open the door. I spoke through the intercom. "Go away, Gary," I said. My voice flat. Gary's voice exploded through the intercom. "Your dad can't sleep. If you don't apologize to your sister, you're out of the will. Not a dime. You'll die alone and poor." The threat was familiar money as a leash. But they miscalculated. I didn't want their inheritance. I wanted the truth. I don't want the will. Gary, I said. I want the audit. I hung up, calm and certain now. Their desperation told me everything. The money trail terrified them. I dialed the number Tessa gave me. Roberts and Klein Forensic Accounting. A woman answered. My name is Aubrey Vance. I said, I believe someone has embezzled my parents' retirement funds using forged medical expenses. I want every cent traced. I slept peacefully that night. 3 days later, the forensic report arrived. 80 pages of financial dissection revealed the truth over 4 years. Kendra had drained my parents' accounts. Dozens of withdrawals claimed to be for my treatments therapy. Injections. Even emergency imaging. But Sarah, the accountant, cross-checked the dates with my real medical records. I hadn't had an MRI, injections, or any of the procedures she listed. The money hadn't gone to clinics at all. It flowed into a Coinbase wallet belonging to Kendra's boyfriend and a credit card used for designer clothes and Cabo trips. Then came page 42, a check for $12,000. Aubrey surgery copay. Signed in my father's unmistakable handwriting. He hadn't questioned any of it. It was easier to believe I was an endless medical burden than to confront the truth about his favorite daughter. I called Sarah. Filed a police report. Send it to the DA. 2 days later, the fallout arrived at my therapy clinic. My parents waited in the lobby, shaken and older. When they saw me, my mother rushed forward. But I stepped back. The police were at Kendra's condo. She cried, 5 years in prison. You have to stop this. I can't stop the law. I said. Kendra broke it. She's your sister, Dad shouted. She was going to pay it back. She forged medical bills. I said, she used my injury as her alibi. And you signed the checks without ever asking me if any of it was real. Mom grabbed my arm. We'll sell the lake house. We'll repay everything. Just tell the DA, it was a misunderstanding. I pulled away. This family isn't being destroyed. It's being diagnosed. I handed them a restraining order. If you come near me again, you'll be arrested. Kendra is going to prison for her actions. You're losing me for yours. Back in Dr. Thorne's office, I asked, did I do the right thing? In surgery, he said, you cut out the necrotic tissue. If you leave even a little, the patient dies. You didn't lose a family, you removed a tumor. Now you get to heal. I stepped outside into clean air. A text from Tessa blinked tacos. Yes. I typed. Bring champagne. I understood then blood makes relatives. But loyalty makes family. Sometimes the bravest act isn't holding on, it's letting go.